What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. In this one, it's transfer tips ahead of game week 12. Now, just quickly before we jump into the video, yes, things look a little bit different. There's no green screen, but in terms of the camera I'm using, the mic that I'm using, it should sound and look pretty much the same as normal. This is only for a few days, so just bear with me. The quality of the content won't suffer. All my advice and opinions will be exactly the same as normal. So there's a good few players to go through that are kind of being bought, being sold. People are wondering what to do with these players. So let's talk about them, right? We're going to start with Ben Chilwell. 5.8 million, 11.8% owned. I'm sure if you go and look at his top 10k and top 100k ownership, it's maybe a little bit higher. But obviously he's been doing really well. In fact, he scored a goal a game since he came back into the Chelsea side. After I said last week he's not going to keep scoring every week, what does he do? He plays Norwich at home and scores again. So he's looking pretty good. The fixtures, as we know, for Chelsea are decent. Newcastle away, Burnley at home, and Watford away to come into the next 5. Obviously, Leicester away, Man United at home. Neither of those teams have been doing that well either. But at the time of recording, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is still manager. By the time this video goes out, he may no longer be manager anymore. So who knows how difficult that Man United game might be. But Chilwell does play for one of the best defences in the league. And of course, he's very attacking as well. So the conundrum isn't like, should we bring him in? Because obviously he's a good pick. The main thing I think people are going to have is, do they take out other Man City and Chelsea defenders to get him? And when do you do that? Because it can be seen as a sideways move. Now, I'm in that position where I only own Azpilicueta from Chelsea, and from Man City, I own Laporte and Cancelo. Now, Cancelo is very attacking. I would say he's just as good as an option as Chilwell, if not slightly better, because he plays for a better defence. As good as Chelsea are, they're not quite Man City. But when do you make that trade? Now, if you're like me, and you have got Azpilicueta or Diaz, they're actually more expensive. So right now, Chilwell's 5.8 million. At some point, he might go up to 5.9, possibly before the Game Week 10 deadline. Diaz and Azpilicueta are both more expensive. So if you wanted to save some money for a move, and if you're anything like me, you're only like 0.1 million, 0.2 million off the move you want to do this week, trading down, even possibly for a hit. I mean, you want to try and avoid hits where possible, but if you need to make the move to get the player you want, then going down to Chilwell is probably not such a bad move. I'm not saying you have to do it all in 1 week, but making that move at some point might be worth it. You get the more attacking player and you probably save some money. The way Chilwell's going, he's going to be the same price as Diaz and Azpilicueta soon. So the sooner you move on him, the better. And obviously if you're wildcarding, he would definitely be in. He would basically be my Chelsea defender of choice right now. And to be honest, I've flip-flopped around choices over the last couple of weeks, but circumstances have changed. Like back when I wildcarded in Game Week 7, Azpilicueta and Rudiger were the ones to go for. Rudiger gets an injury. James comes back into the side. Chilwell comes back in the side. Alonso is now missing out, and everything has changed. So Chilwell probably is the one to go for. I think it's definitely worth saying that he is first choice, but that doesn't mean that he's going to necessarily play week in, week out. But the fact that he just played Premier League, Champions League, Premier League, without a rest, without rotation or anything like that, that just shows to me that he is now first choice for Tuchel. So the only thing to kind of look at is they have got a Carabao Cup game this week. Check out the lineup for that. If Alonso plays, then that kind of tells me that Chilwell is going to play once again in the Premier League, which is obviously a big priority for Chelsea. Not that they would necessarily want to lose in the Carabao Cup or anything like that, but Premier League and Champions League are always the priorities for these teams. So if Alonso plays, then Chilwell looks good for Newcastle away and Burnley at home. And look, is he going to keep scoring a goal a game? He's not, but his attacking potential is high, and so is his clean sheets. He is a great pick. 293,000 transfers in. That's just going to keep going up before the deadline. Okay, let's stick to Chilwell. And to be honest, I feel like I've kind of got to face the music myself, because although I didn't bring Havertz in, I was quite a fan of him. Although for some moves that people were looking at doing, I did say on the deadline stream, like I probably wouldn't take Foden out. I especially wouldn't take Foden out for a hit. Possibly if you really wanted to captain Havertz, but it wasn't like Salah was a bad captain last week. As much as I didn't want to captain him, it was very hard to kind of go out of my way not to captain him. But I will say, and I said it last week, if I had Havertz in my team, I absolutely would have captained him. Now, I want to talk about the captaincy thing just a little bit, right? If you went for Havertz, I don't think that was a mistake. I think it's harsh to say that people made the wrong decision. Obviously, there was a lot of people that said that Salah was the best captain. So it's not a hindsight thing from a lot of people. But the absolute gap in terms of points from what Salah got versus Havertz is very harsh, very brutal, and that is what FPL does to you sometimes. You could say that Salah was the best option. He was guaranteed to start, pretty much always plays 90 minutes, is on penalties as well. And Havertz was coming into a team where he hasn't done that well for Chelsea. We knew he was going to start, but obviously we didn't know how many minutes he would get. But to be the only player in the starting 11 for Chelsea that didn't return, right? And again, the 3 points don't count as a return, by the way, is extremely harsh. And I think anyone that brought him in and anyone that captained him specifically can feel a little bit hard done by. Yes, okay, fair enough. Salah outscores him. I don't think that's really a shock to anybody. But to outscore him by that amount was extremely harsh. And there's been some big red arrows. So if that's you, just be, I guess, happy. I know it's hard to be happy after that's happened, but it's only game week 9 going into game week 10. There's still plenty of points to play for. In terms of what you should do for him, with him, obviously, a lot of people bought him in. There's already 38,000 transfers out, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when you think about how many engaged managers there are right now that bought him in, that's probably quite a high percentage that are already getting rid of him. We still don't know when Lukaku's back again. By the time this goes out, there might have been some news. If Lukaku's back this week, then that does make Havertz a big problem. And if that is the case, you might have to transfer him on. We'll have to wait and see what the news is. The most easy swap is just to go straight to Foden. And if you haven't, if you've already got Foden, then you could switch to Mason Mount possibly, or you could down to like Mbeumo if he's fit, etc. There's a few other players you can go for. But if Lukaku is out still, then Havertz should play that number 9 spot. The difference this week is obviously you're not going to captain him. You're probably going to go for Salah at home to Brighton, just like nearly every other active manager in FPL. And look, that's a whole different conversation that I'll have on the team selection video. It's not that fun that Salah is permanently captained for now, but I don't think there's any reason to not have Havertz for Newcastle away and Burnley at home if Lukaku is not back. They're great fixtures. All the talk from anyone that said like Norwich have had 2 clean sheets in a row, Chelsea can't score goals, like all those things have been put to bed when they've just put 7 past Norwich. Obviously, there was a few kind of defender returns and Mount got a hat-trick, etc. But for Havertz to score no goals in a match like that is probably a little bit harsh. I know he wasn't necessarily at his best, and people have said that in the comment section on yesterday's video, but I still feel like it's a little bit harsh, the amount of points he got. So if I had him, you could, to be honest, right, even if Lukaku's not back, you could possibly make a case to go to Foden. We'll talk about him in a minute probably. But I don't think there's any reason to get rid of him for Newcastle away and Burnley at home if he's going to play. 2 great fixtures. This time it could be his turn to haul. If you've got him, it sucks, right? I really do think it sucks, especially if you captain him. But I guess stay strong and go into game week 10 knowing you've got a pretty good asset for pretty good fixtures. If you've got a spare transfer, of course, you could move him on, but I don't think he's a priority while Lukaku is out. Are you one of the 31.9% FPL managers that do not own Mo Salah? Just buy him. Simple as that. I don't need to say anymore. So Foden, like we just talked about with Havertz, is very popular at the moment. He's had 267,000 transfers and he's still only owned by 8.8% of all managers. He's 8.1 million again at the time of recording. He's gone up since the game week 9 deadline. And obviously for anyone that owned him for that Brighton game, it was extremely good. 2 goals, 1 assist. For anyone that watched that game like me, which had no attacking players in it, it was horrible. I especially when I had double defence. And obviously Foden was, in terms of the goals he got, he was a little bit fortunate. But for how he played in that game, he wasn't really fortunate to come away with 2 or 3 returns. For the returns that he did get, okay, maybe in some of them he was a tiny bit fortunate, especially for the one that I think it was that Jesus shot and it came off him. But he could have had more returns. So in the end, it was probably a pretty good result. For anyone that jumped on early, that's like to get 18 points before everyone else jumps on is really nice. Big rank increase, or at least if you didn't captain Salah or whatever, it probably held your rank quite well. And his numbers are looking pretty good. 0.72 goals per 90 at the moment, 0.24 assists. Obviously, it's early days in terms of how many matches he's played, but 7 points per game. And he looks pretty good, and Pep is very positive about him. He likes how Foden plays, that he can play in a lot of different positions. And look, right, Man United away, if I'd recorded this video before I saw the Man United-Liverpool result, I would have said, look, Man United is not a great fixture, but it's not awful either. And right now, it actually looks like a pretty great fixture. So again, annoyingly, just because of how you have to record these videos, there is a chance that Solskjaer is not in a job by the time this video goes out. And depending on who comes in, they could make that game difficult. I think the one thing that Man United need to do right now is kind of shore up that defence and stop giving away stupid goals and just generally being awful, because in attack, Man United have got a really good set of players and they can cause problems. There's just no cohesion or, dare I say it, tactics at the moment going into those games. Issue whatever is wrong, it's just not working. Nothing is working that Man United try right now. So looking at that, Palace at home, Man United away, Everton home, it really doesn't look like a bad run of fixtures, especially when Everton have just shipped 5 to Watford as well. Again, I'm sure Rafa Benitez is going to look to kind of shore out that defence before they go any further with anything else. But this is Man City. It's the best attack in the league. They will find ways through all these defences. And right now, Foden is probably my favourite. I said it last week, I think, as well. He is probably my favourite midfielder to buy. Again, is he first choice right now? Absolutely he is. Is he going to play every single game? Probably not. But of those 6, could he start 5? At the bare minimum 4? Absolutely. And in those games, he could get plenty of returns. And you would hope that if he doesn't play in any of them, that he stays on the bench and one of your bench options comes in anyway. So for 8.1 million, he's great. I'm really looking at how I can get him in. I'll talk about more for my team in the team selection video. I kind of already spoke about last week, I think it was, how I had a plan for him later on around, I think it was game week 12. But right now, it's looking like I kind of want him this week. So again, that Havertz move I spoke about earlier, I don't see anything wrong with doing a Havertz to Foden, but I'd probably hold on unless you're going to be priced out soon. But he just looks great, in great form right now. And you know how much I love form. Just looks sharp in front of goal. The finish against Liverpool was decent, and he can assist too. So the guy's great. Man City are going to score plenty of goals. You kind of want someone from their attack who's good value, and Foden looks like the best right now. So let's be honest, right? Raphinha has been one of the most talked about players on this channel since pre-season. I would say for good reason. The guy is great. He's brilliant value. I think the fact that he's now getting minutes for Brazil is going to show the world just how good he is. And I think at some point there is going to be a big fee kind of transfer for him to someone else. Obviously, we know that Liverpool have been touted and stuff like that. But we're not talking about where he's transferring in real life. We're talking about whether we should be transferring him out for FPL. And again, I hate to keep going on like a broken record. Right now, I do not know at the time of recording whether he's fit or not. I've got to be honest, seeing that challenge, I'd be very surprised if he starts for Norwich. So there's a few key questions which I'll try and answer now. So no matter what injury news comes out, you've got my opinion on what to do. So there's a few things. One, what if he misses out Norwich and then is fine after that for like game week 11 or game week 12? What if he's out long term and what if he's not out at all? Now, he is great value. The reason I keep banging on about him because he is so good and he is so cheap as well. 6.7 million is still a great price. I think, again, like a lot of people said, 7.5 million pre-season, I probably would have still looked at him. He's 20% ownership, so a lot of people agree. And that Norwich away fixture does look great, and it's very disappointing that he's injured. If he's going to miss Norwich, I think you can make a case to get rid of him, but I don't think looking at the fixtures, like Leicester at home have been shipping a few goals. I think Brentford only scored 1, of course, but they could have probably scored a few more. Spurs away, Brighton away, not ideal. Palace at home, Brentford at home are okay as well. But obviously he does provide that value at a pretty cheap price point where there aren't a huge amount of other options to go for. So if he's available for Norwich, I think you definitely keep him. I will definitely be looking to do that. If there's any doubt, then it might be a little bit different. But right now, if he's available for Norwich, I'll probably keep. If he's going to miss Norwich and then be out after that, I think you can go one of two ways without trying to sit on the fence. I think it's going to depend on your squad. You can definitely hold on to him for Leicester, Spurs, Brighton, Palace and Brentford. But you could also make a case to get rid of him. But it really depends where you're going to. Like if I look at the list of midfielders that I would like to move to within the same price, you got Saka, but I suppose a lot of people would go for Smith Rowe. That could be an option, I guess, for Arsenal players. Mbomo as well at Brentford, but he also picked up a knock and we don't know if he's going to be fit. The way that was talked about, to me, it sounds like he'll be available for this weekend. But again, we're going to have to wait and see what's said. And then I go down the list, I'm thinking like Saar, Bowen, there's Ben Rama as well. There's just not many players. So if I had the money to move up, then I might look at that. Mason Mount, Foden, players like that we've spoken about a lot this week. But if he's out for a short term, you could just look to keep him. Obviously, if he's out long term, then he has to go. The players I've just spoken about, Mbuemo, Saka, Smith Rowe, etc., they're probably the ones that you're going to be looking at right now. But ideally, you want to find some money to upgrade him. So right now, my favourite option is to go from Raphinha straight up to Foden. I think the longer you leave without going for Havertz, obviously, the harder it is to bring him in because he's only really a good option while Lukaku is out. And again, if I don't bring him in this week, then it's 1 week closer for Lukaku getting back. So it's hard to say. He did put that message up on Instagram saying that he'd be back soon. But what does soon mean? 1 game week, 2 game weeks, 3 game weeks? We just don't know. And players tend to be positive about these situations and kind of play down the severity. So I think he's going to be out for quite a while, but I'm not a doctor, so I don't know. But if he misses that Norwich game, I will seriously consider getting rid of him. It's not a move that I like because I still think for those fixtures he can provide value. But if I can get someone in like Foden and still have a really great squad and only be missing Raphinha, I think I could be okay with that. But if he's available for Norwich, I think he has to stay because Norwich are awful. Okay, let's talk about Armstrong as well. I mean, this one's pretty simple. It doesn't matter how good those fixtures are. He probably needs to go. He hasn't started the last two, and obviously Broja has done really well for Southampton as well. We'll have to wait and see whether his knock, well, he's listed as a knock on FPL. Let's see what is said by Hassan, who, again, they play midweek, Southampton, so we might get some information about that. But it just, the thing is, Armstrong could well play like one or two of these next three. But the problem is the way it's gone now. You don't know, and you have to put him down as a minute's risk. He just is a minute's risk because he's been available for the last two and he hasn't played. So, again, as always, if you've got a good squad, you could just bench him, right? Maybe even put him further down on the bench, even second or third bench, put Livramento higher up or whoever you've got, because a player that's that much money is not eating a huge amount of your budget. So again, if you've got a squad like mine where you've got like right now this week, I've got Livramento and Saka on the bench as well as Brownhill. If I had someone like Armstrong, I could just bench him for any one of the, two of those three players. I wouldn't want to play Brownhill. And so I don't need to immediately rush out to sell him, especially if I had to take a hit to upgrade him to a player I wanted to, because let's not forget, he's 6 million. So a lot of the players you probably want are a little bit more expensive. So you don't have to get rid of him straight away, but long term, he is now a risk and you probably do have to look to move him on. If you want to stay in the same bracket, so 6 million or less, then Hwang is probably the one to go to. He started again, he scored again. I think he scored from I haven't got the numbers in front of me, but not very many shots on target so far. But he does seem pretty advanced. And Jimenez, it's not that he's constantly dropping deep, but there is like a partnership building there where maybe, Jimenez has got the ball, maybe he's running into the channels or he's holding it up, and Hwang at times is going beyond him. So it doesn't mean that he's always going to score the goals and Jimenez is always going to assist. But for the value, if Hwang's going to keep starting, he looks brilliant, right? You save 0.3 million, and you get a striker that so far is going to keep on starting. Again, can we say that he's first choice right now? I think we probably can. Is Hwang going to play every single game, though? Possibly not. We just can't say that right now. I think you have to kind of make that trade knowing that that is possible, that he misses out some games. The other option is to kind of go up in price. So Tony is a really good option. I know he hasn't scored a huge amount of goals so far. And again, another game against Leicester where people were hoping that he would score and he didn't. But he is on penalty. He's got 4 returns so far in the first 9 games. Absolutely nailed. Blah, 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 blah. All the stuff I said before. And Brentford have got good fixtures. So I think he is probably where I would go. If you've got 0.5 million, I would make that trade upwards and just get Tony. You've got players like Pukki, obviously King now at Watford. Who knows what kind of formation and stuff that Ranieri's going to go for. You could take a punt on him and then just see what happens longer term. But I feel like Tony almost just gives you a bit of security where, if you get Hwang in or you get King in and then they start missing games, you've got another transfer to make. With Tony, unless he gets injured, and by the way, there's been a lot of injuries recently, he's probably just the safest call. So he's probably where I would go if I had a bit of money to spend. Otherwise, probably to Hwang, or if I wanted to punt on someone like King. But the problem is Watford's fixtures just aren't that good. So let me know in the comments below what you think of these players, what you're doing with them. If you've got Havertz, are you going to sell? Is everyone going to Foden? What about Mason Mount, who we spoke about yesterday? Let me know in the comments below. Once again, thanks for sticking with me. Hopefully it sounded okay, and obviously hopefully the quality of the content in the video was good enough as well. I know it doesn't look quite the same with the camera and the webcam, but it's a pretty decent camera, so hopefully it didn't look too bad. If you want to keep supporting me, please do hit that like button. It really is appreciated. We'll be back to normal in just a couple of days. And obviously hit that subscribe button, and I will be back tomorrow with team selection. I'll see you soon.